How's it going, guys? John the Basic Expert here. I wasn't going to do a video because I didn't have anything prepared for West End Game Star Wars D6, but I wanted to make a video for you all anyways. I had an idea. I think this is an important topic to talk about, and I think you'll enjoy it. And the topic is how to learn any system. I see a lot of 5e people in particular say, well, you know, I'm pretty comfortable in 5th edition and I really don't feel like moving to a new system. I don't feel like trying to learn Castles and Crusades. I don't feel like trying to learn old school Essentials or Basic Fantasy or, you know, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1st edition or 2nd edition or BX or BECMI, the Rule Encyclopedia, Lion and Dragon, or OD&D, Iron Falcon, Cephas, the Cephas Engine, Traveler. All these games just seem like too mystical to me, and I'm just so comfortable in 5e. Like, we're just gonna stay doing 5e, even though like we're not really having that much fun in 5e, and I'm getting kind of burnt out as a DM. We're gonna stick with 5e just because it's what I know, and I want to encourage you out of that. Not that I want you to quit playing 5e. If you are legitimately having fun playing 5e, good for you. Keep having fun playing 5e, but I think learning other systems, other games, will make you not just a dungeon master, but a game master. And that brings me to the next topic that I wanted to talk about here. Before we dive into how to learn any system, let's talk about the different tiers of player or hobbyist within this hobby. There's the player. The player is the lowest buy-in, the lowest investment tier there is, as far as it goes in the hobby. You have to worry about your miniature, your character sheet. If there's a player's handbook, you have to worry about that. A lot of third-party books are like all in one. They're not like D&D where there's like a player guide and a dungeon master guide. So the burden on a player is quite low. You just have to make sure you show up to game night and you're ready to go. You know what your character can and can't do, and you know what your abilities are. You know what spells you have prepped. It's the easiest, lowest tier, but it's an important one because it gets you hooked in the hobby, right? When you introduce someone to the hobby, you introduce them as a player. You don't just dump them in as a dungeon master, as a game master. You put them in as a player because you want them in the lowest investment part in case they don't like it, just because you know they're going to have the most fun in that. It's the least burden on their shoulder. Just show up, roll dice, and have a good time. The next tier is dungeon master. And this is where my definitions are going to be a little different from everyone else's. So dungeon master isn't just like a trademark term in comparison to game master. We're going to talk about both of these. A dungeon master is someone who is running a D&D game. You've taken the plunge from player to DM. You've been a player and you've been interested. You kind of got a handle on the system and you're like, I want to run a game. And some people, like myself, are weirdos where we go straight to being the DM, right? Because we're the ones that like, we want to play this game, we want to learn to do it. I'm going to introduce it to my friend group, so I'm going to be the one to buy all the books, and I'm just going to learn to play this game, and then I'll present it to my friends, and we'll all play Dungeons and Dragons. So that's what is the next level, the DM. But there's a level beyond that, right? Because this is so insular. The player and DM aspect is so like insular within Dungeons and Dragons itself, and specifically in the modern context, in the modern discourse within 5th edition itself. So beyond that is the term game master, and I say that not just as a generic non-trademarked term that you can't get sued by WotC over. I'm saying it as a term of someone who has mastered the concept of tabletop role-playing games, or someone seeking to do that. They've moved beyond D&D. They still play D&D for sure. That's what I do. I still play D&D, but I like to play other games. I like to play Coriolis. I like to play West End Game Star Wars D6. I like to play Traveler. I like to play the Cephas Engine. I like to play Call of Cthulhu, RuneQuest, like all these older games, Mech Warrior 2nd edition. All these older games I have, I read them and I want to understand them. And so that's when your hunger goes beyond just mastering the D&D rule set, but mastering any system you come across. And that's what the topic of this video is. How do I go from being a player or a DM to being a game master, where I am mastering not just a singular game, but attempting to master the hobby itself? It's a long introduction, but I needed to give that premise out. I want to put in your mind as I speak on this topic the difference between game master and dungeon master and player. So we're going to be focusing on how to become a game master. So this video is targeted towards the dungeon master as I defined it and the player. So again, I've heard this complaint like, well, we're just comfortable playing D&D. We're comfortable playing 5th edition. We really don't want to learn anything else. We don't really want to do anything else. We're not maybe having that much fun, and our campaign keeps restarting every 6 sessions or so, but you know, it's fun and it's what we're going to stick with. And that's all well and fine if you are truly having fun doing that. I don't want to discourage you in the slightest, but I have a sneaking suspicion that you're probably not having a good time in such a game, and that your players might not be having such a good time in that kind of game. So the way to approach any game, I think, and this is just simple advice, super simple advice, is read your rule books, first of all. But in conjunction of reading the rule books, go through character creation. If you're going to learn a new system, you need to know how character creation works, especially if you are running something you are unfamiliar with, because you're probably going to have to guide other players at the table in character creation. So make a whole party of adventurers, right? If you're playing Coriolis, if you're playing Traveler, make a whole group, a crew of a ship that is going to be on that ship, in this theoretical ship that you're building, so that you understand how player creation works. So when questions come up during that first session, when players are making their characters, you can answer any and all questions. As a game master, you need to have player character creation mastered. So make a bunch of different characters, and you'll be doing something interesting at this point. As you're building characters, you're going to start to see how different you're going to see the link between character creation, the attributes and abilities and skills and number values and the character measurements that you're putting on that sheet. You're probably going to start to understand, if you are reading your rulebook, where those come into play within the rules themselves. Like, this skill bonus with firearms in Traveler, I'm reading it, I'm building the character. What does that mean when I earned rifle 2? What does that mean? You go and read it like, oh, okay, it means I get like a +2 bonus, or you get forward observation 1, and you're like, oh, that gives me like a +4 bonus. Cool. I understand how this works now. You're learning the rules in a way, you're killing a bunch of birds with one stone, essentially, when you do character creation. And this seems like such simple advice, but you'd be shocked at how many players, again, going back to our 3 tiers here, how many players, for instance, in 5th edition are incapable of making a character without using D&D Beyond or an app, right? They don't know how to do it the old school way of having a character sheet physically in front of them and building a character on that sheet. They have no concept of how to do that. And by extension, because of that, there's a lot of players that have become DMs that do not know how character creation actually works. They are incapable. There's a whole slew of them. I would probably hazard to guess that it's quite a lot of people within the 5e world that don't know how to build a character without the help of D&D Beyond or some kind of app. And obviously, this is a whole different tangent, but I think this is by design by Wizards of the Coast. They want that because obviously they're moving in a digital direction, and they want you to be addicted to their apps and incapable of playing the games already without their apps. So, and obviously Wizards of the Coast owns D&D Beyond at this point now, so I think my theory stands to be correct. So learn character creation. So once you've made characters, do some mock solo gaming, right? If the beauty of the OSR, for instance, in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1st Edition, is you have like dungeon generators, and you have a lot of tools for generating scenarios that you can use for solo gaming if you wanted to. In fact, it's explicit in the rules that you can do solo gaming. Classic Traveler says the same thing within it. And within 5th edition, it's totally possible to solo game. My buddy Crossface, I'll have a video up here on the top here, has made a video about solo gaming in 5e. I've done a video of solo gaming in Scarlet Heroes as well. So, but try doing some solo gaming. It can be as simple as like you want to simulate as best as you can what the table will feel like. and I do this quite a lot when I'm learning a system. So I build my characters. I build 6 or 7 characters, let's say, a full adventuring party of whatever this game is going to be, whether I'm doing Castles and Crusades or Traveler or a West End game, Star Wars D6. So I build the whole adventuring party, and I take that adventuring party on an adventure. I sure, it's not going to be as exciting. I'm going to kind of know what's going to happen if the game doesn't support solo play within the rules itself very clearly. But it could be as simple as, you're playing Traveler, and you're like, well, okay, I built my characters, and I'm going to have let's set up a scenario where they're on their scout ship, and they dock at a sketchy space station, let's say, and we get into a combat situation. So I want to learn how combat works. So then you do that, and then you go and you read the rule book, and you're going to see the very important bits of information that you are going to need. You're going to really know what you need to know at the real table when you do that, because you are going to have questions as you're doing your solo game. You're going to be having questions of like, how does attacking work? I'm going to go read the attack section. How does movement work? I'm going to look at the movement section. How does damage work? I'm going to look at the damage section. What happens when I reach 0 hit points if the game uses hit points? What happens when my character dies? You're going to be looking all of that up. How do I use this special spell or special ability? Or if you're playing a sci-fi game, this piece of tech. You're going to figure all of that out, and you're going to have a better grasp of the game, so that when you eventually run the game for the first time, it really isn't your first time. So I think these are the 2 bits of advice that will take you from being a player or a dungeon master to a game master. If you can learn character creation and you do solo gaming within the game you're trying to learn, and again, it can be as simple as setting up just a simple scenario. You're doing Call of Cthulhu, and the beauty of Call of Cthulhu is there's a lot of solo adventures. Some of them are free out there, which are great. They can teach you the rules. I think solo adventures in games are something that is missing, that would often teach you how the system works. Star Wars has it. The old BX box sets had that. Call of Cthulhu has that. So if you're looking for Call of Cthulhu, you can go check that out. There's a lot of solo games for that as well. But this is the key thing. This will be the third thing. You have to have the mindset. So character creation, doing solo gaming before you take it to the table with your players. And number 3, you have to have the mindset. And that mindset is you have to want to learn new systems. You have to want to be the game master and not just the dungeon master. You have to, and again, I'm not saying that you have to abandon and quit playing D&D, but I'm saying that if you want to reach that higher tier of running games, you have to learn, it will behoove you to learn other systems. And learning other systems will give you tools and mindsets and rationalizations and insights into running your D&D games better, if that's what you're looking for as well. You could read Call of Cthulhu, you could read Traveler, you could read Mech Warrior, you could read AD&D and do some, as if you're going to run it, learn character creation, learn how combat works, how adventuring works, all of these things. And you can take it and be like, these are some cool things I could apply. There's things I could steal from these games into my D&D game to make the game more rich and interesting if you want to do that. So I think that's how you go from player to dungeon master to game master. Again, these are not just terms that are like, well, these 2 over here, or this one over here, dungeon master is this trademark thing of Wizards of the Coast, and game master isn't. No, when I say game master, I'm referring to, I want to master any game that's put in front of me that I could potentially run. Almost any. Obviously, there's some games out there that are super convoluted and difficult to learn and play, and they're super crunchy, and you're going to have a harder time with them. But I think even using this method, you're going to figure it out. And again, it seems so simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't know how to build a character, even in 5e. This is the game they know and love and play, apparently, that they feel comfortable in, and they don't even know how to make a character on a character sheet. They don't even read their DMG or read all the way through their player's manual and see like all the rules, and they end up homebrewing these rules that are there to fill holes that they put there themselves because they refuse to read the rule books. So be a game master. Don't just be a dungeon master, and it will make you a better dungeon master, and it will make you a better player as well. So that's this video, guys. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you agree, disagree? Tell me what you think. Probably no videos between Christmas and New Year's. Going to spend some time with the family. It's very important. I hope you have a good time with your family. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll see you guys next year. And I wish you a fantastic, wonderful Christmas season. So until the next video, guys, we'll talk to you later. Peace out.